I'm Mark Lawrence, founder and CEO of a company called SpotHero. We're based in Chicago. We do have offices here, and we serve millions of customers across North America. And it started with just a couple of us. And things have changed a lot since we first started. And we had Brett's Spot, which was just one single parking spot that we were the Airbnb of parking. And it's actually kind of interesting to sit here and see all the different things about marketplaces because I'm having, deja vu. I've been doing this 8 years. So yes, marketplaces take a long fucking time. And when we first started, there were hundreds of different parking apps, and we've seen a lot of iterations. And today, we're the top parking app. We have more spaces, more garages, more downloads, more customers parking than anybody else. Tens of millions of cars. 5,000, actually it's now 6,000 parking facilities. And we have hundreds of different parking partners. And it's interesting because we were called a one-hit wonder. And so that white-hot center, we had that. That white-hot center, and that was actually Chicago. So many things have changed from the start. I think it's important to think through this. And I actually talk about this at my all-team meeting. So I'm going to quote a Greek philosopher. The only thing you can count on is change. And then, yes, I am going to quote myself because I say this every single all-team meeting. We're a different company every 30 days. And I say that so that everybody remembers, like, if we're not changing, if we're not different, that there is a problem. Because growth and marketplace growth is predicated on change. And strategies that have worked in the very beginning don't work at every different stage. And I think it's important to think through what are the things that you keep and what are the things that you don't. So for us, and I have a disco ball, this is a shiny object, because a lot of shiny objects were chased by a lot of different folks in our space. And so the biggest one was Geography. So for the first 2 years, we only had one city. And even after 3 rounds of funding from both coasts, including a bunch of great investors here, we were only in 5 cities. And yet all these competitors were in 50 cities, 100 cities. Even today, we do more revenue in one city than our next largest competitor does in 150 cities combined. And we're told we're a one-hit wonder, and there was a lot of pressure. And so I think it's important to find conviction, not consensus, because the consensus was at the time that we needed to go to all these different cities. And so the biggest thing for us was the focus. And that was really, that strategy of focus, white hot center, whatever you want to call it, was really the thing that helped us the most. Well, so another shiny object that was chased was started right here, which was the on-demand valet companies. And that's another thing that I think is important too, in terms of finding conviction, not consensus, is because a lot of folks, at the time, we had only raised $4 million, and we had been around for 4 years. And it was actually kind of frustrating because there was like 25 companies that raised 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, $77 million. All of them are bankrupt now. And there was, again, a lot of pressure to go scale with labor, and the vision that I had for our marketplace was to remove labor from this whole ecosystem. It's an extremely old school industry where today 30% of all parking is still sold through cash only, which is probably crazy to folks in this room to think that 30% of this $30 billion market is cash only, but that's what we were dealing with. So you don't have to move fast to break things. I mean, we have broken a lot of things, but you don't have to move fast to break things. And that focus for us was one of the most important things as we've scaled. And so for us, the hardest piece was supply. Old school companies, super difficult to scale this. And what really helped us was, while there were 300 parking apps that were working with a lot of these companies, we ended up working with the 5 largest parking companies, which control about 30% of the market with 70% long tail, because we focused liquidity over geography. And all of these multi-billion-dollar companies were like, wait, so who are these 2 kids that are bringing us all this revenue? And it wasn't that it was so much to move the needle. It was just that it was in one city versus spread out amongst all these thin places. We provided so much value in one place that they extrapolated it. And then this allowed us to scale city by city, conquer and hold, conquer and hold, conquer and hold. And then we could start to really provide value. And we weren't fighting on a million different fronts. We had 5 cities where everyone else had 50 to 100 or more. And so when we looked at a city, we looked at corner by corner, neighborhood by neighborhood, garage by garage, and it was all of the details that added up that allowed us to really be successful. And it was that focus in just a single geography and those constraints. And if you think about it, in a geographic marketplace, if you're parking in San Francisco, do you care how many parking spaces we have in Boston? No. And vice versa. And it's really about providing value on both sides. And then within a city, though, you care that we have more locations for you to park. And so more consumers get more garages, which get more consumers, get more garages, and so on and so forth. And it's kind of nice, like, it took us years, you get that flywheel to run, and it's so tough to do that. But it's nice when you have one that's running, and then like 2 that are kind of, and then like 2 more that aren't, but we say we are, and we can point to the one that is, because we're like, hey, we got one, versus having just 100 that aren't actually there. We started actually with a website where you printed out a piece of paper and gave it to a human. I know that sounds ridiculous, but at least it's how we got our start. And there were all these so-called things to help us scale. There are no silver bullets. Anytime I thought there was one, it never happened. We worked with Central Parking. They were the 2nd largest parking company in the country. I was like, oh my God, I spent a year to get 50 parking spaces, and I just got 5,000 spaces, and now 90% of my revenue is with them. And we are their answer to compete with the number 1. And we had a deal that we are going to sign, and then the number 1 bought them. Okay? I'm listening to it on the radio, and then I call my contact and I say, oh, like, dude, is the deal still on? And he's like, the deal? He's like, I'm worried about my job. We're all going to get fired. And I'm like, not all of you. And he was right. Of the 100 contacts I had in the company, 99 were let go. There's still 1, so I don't know, who's right. Anyways, what I found is anytime I felt there's like something that's going to just like make the company, it didn't. It's all the details added up that have really, made things happen. Interesting side note, when I first met with that new company that acquired it, I wasn't actually trying to get any more business. I just said, hey, 90% of my business is with your company, and I'm just trying to keep this. I'm not trying to sell you on more. And he said, you probably shouldn't have told me that. And then he told me to get diversifying, which I did. And he said that he wasn't going to make a decision for a year, and ultimately after that year they decided to scale with us, and it really helped. But it was scary because we were so concentrated. But the point is, we learned all these different details, the garage by garage, car by car, city by city, corner by corner, because we started in one city, and then we scaled it to others, even under the pressure. And there was I don't know where there was more pressure, if there was more pressure to scale to all these other cities, and being told we're a one-hit wonder, to the on-demand valets, which made me think existentially about so many different facets. But it was all the details and the knowledge of getting something to work right and well in one place before moving it to many places. So that's all. Thank you. My name is Mark. I love marketplaces. You can email me anytime, and if there are any questions, I'll take them.
I think we're going to open it up to some Q&A, so if anybody has any questions.
How did you pick the cities to move to after the initial?
Yeah, it's a great question. It was really two things. One, size of market, and then competitors. So the question was, how did you pick the cities that you went to? And I said it was the size of the market, and then also our competition. So, Parker's was our number one competitor in Chicago. We own that market. The next city we went to was actually DC to go head-to-head with Parking Panda, which became our largest competitor, and we ended up buying them a year ago. And then we went to New York to go head-to-head with Best Parking, and then we went to San Francisco to go head-to-head with all the on-demand valets. So when I talk about conquer and hold, I mean conquer and hold, because where are those companies now? If you want to park in San Francisco, use SpotHero. And Berkeley and Walnut Creek and San Jose. Yeah, and we even have the only 2 paid garages in Palo Alto. Yes?
What was most effective for growing demand?
For growing demand, actually Craigslist. That was the first thing we started, was just posting ads on Craigslist to people that were looking for event parking. And then the next was SEO in the early days.